Hello everyone, this is Becky at Truckwin, and I am going to do a quick little webinar. I'll try not to take up too much of your time and go over what we've been working on here at Truckwin during So as you can see, one of the main things that we worked on is a new look for Truckwin. So what you're seeing on the screen is actually going to be the main screen of Truckwin. Now, if you really liked orange, you're probably going to be heartbroken, but I'm guessing most people are going to like this scratch. And so this will now be your main screen with your different modules. So I'm going to click on dispatch and I go to this screen and hand side, we're just going to have a simple list here. And you may notice a few slight wording changes. Those are just to make things a little more easy to understand, but all still the same kind of trips. So you know that we already have color coding for pending loads on the board. We now have an option, as you can see over here, on the active or dispatch trips, you can also set up color codes. Very helpful for people that use dispatch in real time. And where you set that up, the easiest way to get there would be to go to dispatch trips. And down here in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see dispatched active trip priority code. If I hit view codes, I can set those up to mean whatever I want. Right above that's the pending board. You may be using it, may not. Time to start. Next, added revenue to the frequent trip report. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull up a load. It's an unassigned load. And guess I'll just do this. Here we go. Okay, if you use frequent orders, which are designed if you do the same trip frequent order, where you can enter in the bill to, origin, and destination. You can also add drops, revenue, mileage, anything like that. So when you need to put this trip into the system, you can just come into this screen and do select. But that's all for the last 10 years, but you may not have known about it. One thing that we added here is if you need to print, go over them. When you hit print, previously it just gave the locations and we added revenue to it. So now when you print this report with it as well. Next page. Option to search by state on the customer list. So our customer list, which you can find in and AR, there is now an option if you want to search by state, you can put your specific state check in and choose state. The next one you may have noticed, may have not. I believe this is one of those ones that was added in 2016, but I don't believe a lot of people know about it because I system. You are going to see void driver advances and void owner operator. So the driver and owner operator those as well. The screen's pretty self-explanatory. It'll come up, it'll show all of your advances. You can narrow it down by trip number, date range, specific driver. You find what you're looking for. Then you would just highlight the advance that you want to delete and come down and hit void select. And that is going to do your general ledger entries for you and basically take care of it throughout the system. It's going to look. So I'll open that up here. So if you go to add or update, I'll go ahead and just do add. You'll notice the screen is quite large. We separate it out into different sections. What's what? So we've got our basic company information. Then down here we've got dispatch information to specify like what kind of contact it is, any special instructions. We added this collection information. Job a little easier. So for contact person name, email, that would be the collections person. So the person doing who they need to contact and the notes they need, because they don't really care about driver instructions or dispatching notes. And then your basic billing information, some defaults if you require things. So you'll notice the customer screen rearranged. Next, omitted social security showing in driver list. Previously in the driver list, update one here. This area right here used to have the social security number listed for the driver, and it was brought to our attention why we got rid of it in the driver list. However, it is still listed where it needs to be. It's just not listed in the driver list from dispatch. Next, address in the view trips, view print detail report. This is just a quick little ad. If you are going to view trips, I'll just do completed. And I'll open up my date range here because I'm in a sample database. Previously, if you would hit view print detail, oh, should have chosen one. Let it come up here. Previously, when the address would print on here, it did not have the zip code. Not sure why, but it didn't. So we went ahead and moving along, there was a change or a few changes. Previous did a fuel import, and I'll see if I have a file to pull up here. It's in red, so we all know don't post that because it's in red, but that's not what I want to show you. Down here where it says post each category as a separate advance. Previously, that would be unchecked. you'd have to check that right before you hit post advances if you wanted your fuel and cash set. So we went ahead and defaulted it. So now it's going to automatically be checked. However, if you would like, you can check. I'm sure every once in a while, some time they forgot to check it and everything is lumped together and it can be kind of a mess if it's not what you want to happen. The next one, updating fuel imports to handle more than just fuel and cash advances. Don't really have anything to show you on this, just to kind of explain what was happening in the past with the fuel imports. We would get fuel and cash, and that's it. Now it's pretty simple to separate those out and get those into other columns that you can sort things into. If you have questions on that, you can just ask, but that's what that feature is. And then the last thing in dispatch is integration with PeopleNet. We did spend the year working on an integration with PeopleNet, and happy to say we did complete the part that we wanted. We split it up into two sections. The first part PeopleNet box, it would flow into Truckwin and alert you that that trip is unloaded. Basically, what we're going for is kind of an automated. Includes dispatch. So if you're a dispatcher watching, and go now, and I will keep on going. Next, freight billing. There's the new look for freight billing. What that means, there is an option right here that says use delivery date as bill date. So presently, actually process the bill. So if you go into Truckwin and double click on a bill, it populates a bill date for it. And then when you print it and post it, it prints. Date. Also, but I'm going to go over it anyways because I get a lot of calls on this, and as far as reconciling accounts because of this. So in billing under utility, well, the so in freight billing under utility, you go to reverted freight bills, and I'll just view all, and it's going to list all of your bills here. Previously, when you would reverse, It would default to today's date. And if you didn't change that to match the invoice date, then you're going to have your reversal on a different day. And when you repost that invoice, it's more than likely when you reverse it. So all that we did here was force the general ledger date to be the actual invoice date. So when you do the reversal, it's going to walk how it's supposed to. Next, added a print non-freight billing. And you may or may not know Truckwin does have a non-freight billing section designed to bill anything that bill. And that's up here on the top, and I can go to non-freight bill billing list. And this would be only your non-freight bills in here. And we just added the print list button there. The next one is a setup for consolidated bills. If you use Truckwin, you know they can be a little complicated to set up as far as what you want printing on bill. So in Truckwin, under Maintenance, Freight Bills Setup, Consolidated Bill Print Setup. How a consolidated bill works is you basically have 75 characters of text. And for characters of text, you can pick what you want to comprise that 75. We added the option for the bill of lading. Present, it was not. So up to 15 characters, you can now have a that concludes. Next, we will go into accounts receivable. And this option has a little bit to do with collect. Had some requests for collection information friendly in Truckwin. So one thing that we did, building off of the customer list, if you recall, we've got this collection area. Now, when you go to your aging report, there is an option to include collection information. What that will do for you when you print your aging report, it will print out the collection information. Basically to make life a little easier to get your money. Next, added an invoice on the cash receipt activity report. So under reports, cash receipt activity report, there is now the option to enter an invoice range. The next one is a big one. I get a lot of calls on this where people post cash receipts in AR, then whether it's when they do their bank rec or whenever, they realize they do, but I encourage you to check this out. So under utility, you will see reverse posted cash receipts and adjustments. And I'll open up my date range here. So all of your cash receipts will be showing in here. You can go by customer range, invoice number, whatever you need to do to find what you're looking for. Highlight the one that you need to void out and click void. That will go ahead and back up and put it back in your receivable list. Next, accounts payable. Only one little change in here. Accounts payable doesn't really change much. We added an option that allows you to use duplicate check. Previously, if you went to post handwritten check, oh, I'll just select one. Oops. I clicked on the wrong thing. Post handwritten check. Okay, previously, you could not repeat check numbers in here. And some people using the handwritten check, they're doing so because maybe it automatically check number. So basically, we just made an option so it doesn't mess everybody up, but just an option to allow duplicate check numbers for handwritten checks. General ledger. If you're a good accountant, you'll notice that window I just closed out of. You don't want that. Means my general ledger is off, but I'm in a sample database, so that's fine. General ledger added an sheet for a closed year. So if I go under report to balance sheet, or actually prior year balance sheet, previously you could put Truckwin considers a prior year, which would be 2 years back, but there wasn't Next, we will head into payroll. And payroll, the first one says added option to print date range. So that is a report. So under reports, if we go to summary of payroll by date range, an option to print the specific group. Previously, it was all or nothing, just your date range. The next one, I don't really have a visual for you, but we had quite a few customers saying having the fuel print on the payroll settlement was confusing. Cash advances, yes, those will still be on there, but the fuel is not going to print on there, so it should be a little more cut and dry for the drivers to understand what's on their settlement and what they're being paid for. Another thing added to the settlement in payroll is the word drop or pickup. That says total loaded miles, total deadhead. The next thing, reports, the per diem report in payroll. If you were running this, you would have noticed it prints all of the drivers, whether diem for that date range. And we'll skip down to management reports. And the first thing we have here is revenue reports. Under the revenue report by dispatcher, we added an option that says print summary. If you were using this report before and hit print, you would get detail on all you had, which could turn into a really long report full of good data. Did dispatcher ABC have? So print summary, you'll see what it does is it lists all the dispatchers that you have in your database and whatever date range you put in, and it lists how many trips they have. And over here is your loaded miles, deadhead miles, total revenue, the percentage of pay, and the net amount on what you made for those trips. So kind of a nice little report if you're doing a lot of things by dispatcher. Next, we've seen quite a demand for things MC number for the customer list. So under standard reports, the first tab here is customer. This is where you can go to print alerts and stuff. If you go to print full report, you will see there is now a place for the MC number to print on this report. I believe what some people do with this is from this report, they come up here and export it to Excel. So it's kind of nice to have all the data there. And next we will skip down to revenue settlements. First thing, I'm going to go over a few options. Speaking of like the MC number and stuff, in revenue settlements, under RS setup, we now have an option to require a unique federal ID number and require a unique MC number. It is going to basically ensure that you don't end up with doubled up information on your owner-operator or carrier list. Not so much owner-operators, those are usually your drivers, but carriers, what we see a lot is you end up with 2, 3, or 4 IDs. Next are some options. A revenue settlement that prints, that you can either do reprint settlements from history, or when you're done writing checks, you can do the print revenue settlement. So a few changes to that. We added printing the driver name. So in Truckwin, if you assign the load to a carrier, there's a place to type a driver name in there. That was not printing on the settlement, so we added that to print on the settlement. The next thing we did, this is kind of more so accounting, but in our setup, we went ahead and added a place for a default expense account. So normally in Truckwin, by default, the expense account is 5010. Let's say you want to use a different account. Example, right now, when you hit add 5010. So if you do 5010 to be your default expense account, you can type in whatever expense account you do want to use. And when you hit add in the future after that, 10. And that concludes individual enhancements. Truckwin does have a new look. We did go through the menus and wording and try as far as what we name the things in the menu. So you might notice a little bit different wording, but it should make a little more sense to you. We also went through and most of the crystal reports in Truckwin, when you would open them, it would open a little window in the upper left-hand corner. They will data to see what you're looking for. So you'll probably notice that as well. So if you pull up a screen you're used to and you think something's different, it's probably bigger. So just keep in mind, Truckwin is still the same, just has a new skin on it. With that, I will go ahead. .com. Most of you know that, but so if you are a local install and you had a service contract in 2017, thank you.